Hello everyone, welcome back. In this lesson, we will look at how to add the home component from the Angular 2 perspective. So first of all, let's open our browser and let's go to the Angular CLI. And we're gonna open the GitHub website. And if we could just click on the releases button, we know that the latest version is actually beta 1, beta 17 actually. So you want to make sure that you have installed the latest version. So one way to look at it is just to run this ng space version, and they just check for the version of that Angular CLI. You can see mine for now is the latest one. You might get even newer one when you're watching this video, but that's fine. You always want to use the latest one. So what we're gonna do is we just need to find a folder to store our project. So within that folder, we're gonna simply run ng new. Let's just call the application as frontend, since we are developing just the frontend part of the Lagoon project. Okay. So after you enter the command, it might take a little while for it to finish building the structure of the project. So I'll just pause the video to let it finish. So after installation, you have a folder structure called Frontend. Well, I have previously haven't deleted the Frontend here. Let's just that we'll go to the new project structure, and it looks like this. So we have the node underscore modules to include all the dependencies. Okay, and we can do a quick ng serve to run the application. Just make sure that you have the admin privilege to run this command. And after a little bit compilation, you should be able to watch the application, to launch the application at localhost at port 4200. Okay, so I'll just pause the video to let it finish compilation. Okay, it says bundle now is valid. We can go to localhost 4200, and there we go. We have our app works. So in this case, we know the environment has been set up correctly. And the next step is we're gonna modify some of the components here. We're gonna add our first component called home component. Okay, so first let's just stop the server, and we're gonna use a text editor. This time we're gonna use Sublime. You can still use at home or Sublime, whatever you like. I'm having some problem with that song previously, so I just switched to Sublime. And this is gonna launch the Sublime environment, and we're gonna open our folder. So first, let's talk about a little bit about project structure. So we know that we have some configuration files that we need, and also dependency files that is residing in the node underscore modules, right? And the part that we need to work on is in the source folder. Specifically, will be in the application folder, and we have some entry files like main.ts and some configuration files as well. So let's open our app folder, and then we have our index.ts and app.component.ts. I mean app.module.ts. So this one basically have all the components and services and providers defined in one unified files. In the previous Angular 2 releases, they are spread out into different parts, which is not very convenient to manage. So I like this structure much better because everything is managed through this single file, which is very convenient. Okay, so now next we come to our the main entry point for our application. So that's called the app component, all right? So we define a variable here called title, which equals the string value called app works. That's actually what we are seeing here. But how does this get displayed? Okay, so let me just quickly walk through that. So eventually, when the application starts to run, the index.html is the file to be loading for HTML. And this main.ts will be the entry point. And you can see it's bootstrapping the module app module, all right? And this app module is going to link to this app.module.ts. You can see here it is exported as a class called app module, okay, where we define a whole bunch of components and services. And after that, we have the app.component.ts as the entry point, okay? So that is to say, for Angular 2, we're gonna build modules based on this app.module. And we talk about the Angular 2 if you have taken my previous course about Angular 2. So Angular 2 is based on modular design. So everything is built upon components and modules. Okay, so we have a title here as a string, and it has a template URL which is pointing to a HTML file which has the same name. So that is the name here. So you can see we have a double curly brace to evaluate the title value, and this title value is actually binded to this variable. So if we just change that to something test and we save that, come back to our environment, and then we're gonna do an register to start the server. So after it's reloaded, you can see that the content has been changed. Okay, so this will be the entry point that we're gonna deal with. But for now, let's just right click on the app folder, and we're gonna create a new folder called components. Okay, and within this components folder, we're gonna add a new file, and let's just paste in the content here, and I'm gonna save it as home.component.ts, and the name matters, so you want to make sure the name is exactly as this one. Okay, so because the file extension name is ts, so Sublime has installed the plugin for that, and it's automatically recognized the file as a TypeScript file. Okay, so let's talk about this file for a little bit. We have three parts: the import, to import whatever components or modules from the Angular core library, and then we have the annotation part, which is defining the metadata for our class. And then we have the selector and template URL defined in this annotation. Basically, selector is the HTML tag that we're going to use later to reference this component. And the template URL basically is that what's the HTML content related to this component. And now it's pointing to an external file which we haven't created yet. So let's just create a file for now. Remember that we are using the dot to reference the current folder. So we want to put the HTML file in the same folder structure, in the same folder level. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just copy and paste in the code here, and I'm gonna save it as home.component.html. Okay, and we have a component and we have a component HTML. So how do we link this home component to our app as the entry? So first of all, since we have added a new component, we need to define here in the app.module.ts. So we're going to import the home component from .components home.components. Okay, we don't have to specify .ts as Angular will automatically recognize the file as ts TypeScript file. And after we have import, we need to declare that component, okay? So that Angular knows this is a component available to be used. Now we have the home component declared. We can come to the app .component.html. So we're going to delete this part, and we're going to just refer a tag called home. So this is a customized tag that we have created. And how does Angular know that this which component is referenced to? Well, that's because if we come back to our app.component, home.component.ts, we have defined a selector as home, right? That's the name. So this name is exactly the same as what is displayed here, okay? So now you can see we have our photo list and side panel displayed, okay? So that's how you actually add a component and a link to the entry point of the Angular 2 structure, all right? And that's pretty much for this lesson. We'll continue in the next one. See you guys in the next